The job I had, working for a well-known pizza chain, has been one of the best and worst jobs I've ever had. I'll start with the reasons why it's been so good before jumping right into the bad stuff. It's going to make explaining what happened to me last night a lot easier if you know a little backstory. For a business that constantly reminds me how cheap it is, it pays me well enough as assistant manager. The work is typically repetitive and simple, and my days there usually melt together, as it's more or less the same routine every day. Deal with customers, make the pizzas and wings, call the soda company and complain our order is late for the third time in a row. There's the odd time when things get tense. We get angry and or complaining customers every few days, but every workplace deals with customer service that gets those. Thankfully, it never usually takes more than a free pizza or credit with their next order to make them happy again. For the past 11 months, I have been the restaurant's main closer. My shifts never change from 4 to 11 or 4 to 12 on Fridays and Saturdays. Once in a while I get scheduled for a 10 to 6 or 11 to 7 shift if one of our openers is sick, but that's pretty rare. However, it does happen, since I live in such a small town. My pizza store only deals with takeout and delivery orders. There's no dining area at all except for a couple of bar tables and stools by the main entrance for people to wait for their order. The front lobby of the restaurant is tiny, and the kitchen is no exception. The entire back area is pretty much one big room, with a little area behind a wall in the back that doubles as the prep area and office. There is no break room or employee bathroom. We do have one bathroom at the front for customers right next to the pop cooler by the entrance to the kitchen. Now you know a little about the restaurant's looks and runs, I'll move on to why it isn't such a good place to work at the best of times. First off, I'm one of only 5 people that work there. My boss and 2 of my other employees are contract workers from India, so English isn't their first language. They never talk in English when it's just me and them, so I'm always a little out of the loop. My other co-workers works only part-time since she's still in high school. So with her there only a few hours a week, I spend a majority of my time working without talking too much to my other co-workers. It can get pretty lonely. Now a little about me. I just turned 20. I'm a smaller female and I live about 10 minutes away from work. That's 10 minutes walking one way. I don't have a licence or a car. This typically doesn't bother me, but it does get kind of scary when I'm walking home in the dark after midnight. Thankfully, the walk to my house is in a pretty good part of town. I've yet to run into any real issues. Other than the language barrier between me and most of my co-workers, the only real problems come from the night shifts. Since one person is fully capable of doing the closing duties, I'm left there by myself from 8 p.m. onwards. This means I have to answer the phones, help the customers and make all the orders. It's not usually busy, so I never have a problem with that. Unless there's the odd time where I get 4 or 5 orders at once, but I'm really fast at making pizzas. I can usually get them made and in the oven within a minute and a half of the order being taken. The real problem with being alone on closing shifts explains it within this very sentence: I'm there all alone. It can be kind of spooky sometimes. If there's someone weird that comes in, anyone could rob me or hurt me, and there would be no one there to help. I've talked to my boss about my concerns, but he always dismisses me, saying, I'm a phone call away if you need help. We should not have to pay a second person to do your job. Jerk. Last night, I worked my usual close. Since it was Sunday, I only had to stay till 11, but it felt like I was there for hours more. Last night, my fears of what would happen when I was alone came true. My shift went normally for half the day. By the time 8 o'clock rolled around, I had said goodbye to my morning crew and had already started on the closing checklist. Weird stuff started happening around 9:30. I was making dough in the back, taking my time with it since there was not much else to do. I heard the beep beep of the doorbell and automatically spun around, looking at the TV displaying real-time footage of the front lobby. I stared at it for a few seconds, confused. The front was empty, and I could not see anyone out of the windows outside. Convinced I had imagined it, I carried on with my dough, greased and oiled 5 more pans, finishing the stack. I stacked them on top of each other and picked them up, turning around. Oh, sorry, I missed a line. Turning around to check the camera again before I carried the dough to the walk-in cooler. My heart leapt painfully in my chest, and I fumbled with the stack, nearly dropping them all on the floor. A man was standing in the lobby, peering into the kitchen. At once I set the pans down, wiping my hands on my apron before I ran out to greet him. He had shocked me, but I got over it quickly. I figured he must have been standing in the blind spot last time I checked the camera, the spot where I used to hide when taking extra breaks, so my boss couldn't see what I was doing. "Hi there," I called out as I walked quickly over. "Sorry about that. I didn't see you come in. What would you like to order?" "I didn't see you come in." The man repeated my words. "I didn't see you come in." I stood still for a second, not knowing what to say. I was getting a really bad vibe from this guy, and as he spoke, it got worse. I tried to ignore it, convincing myself with little success that I was being silly. The man looked average enough, despite being very dirty. He was very tall and looked older than my dad, but he was dressed strangely. He was wearing a shiny light blue dress shirt tucked into a grey, stained sweatpants. His sweatpants were tucked into his socks. His hair was greasy and combed to the side. His pockets were stuffed with what appeared to be all the mints I had in the jar near the menus. He smelled like he hadn't had a shower in weeks. "Can I take your order?" I asked again, but my voice lacked questioning. It sounded more like a timid statement, and I wondered what this guy's problem was. It took a long time, but he finally ordered a small pepperoni pizza with 8 boneless wings. I rang his order in quickly, happy he had finally said something. I couldn't help notice the way his mouth moved when he talked. It just went straight up and down like a doll. He didn't have any teeth, and his breath nearly made me gag. "I'll have your order ready in 10 minutes, I said, placing his change on the table. I thanked him again and walked into the kitchen, wishing there was a door instead of an empty frame leading into the kitchen. I didn't want him to get curious and look in again. I went into the walk-in, grabbing a small pan to make his pizza. Before I got started on it, I checked the camera again, feeling a little better when I saw the man sitting at the bar table reading what looked like a menu from the front counter. Convinced he was just not all there and most likely homeless, I ignored my gut feeling that something was wrong and prepared his order. I had the pizza in the oven in under 30 seconds. I dropped his wings in a basket and set the timer on the fryer. 6 minutes to kill before they're ready. I took this as an opportunity to check my phone. I picked it up just in time. I was receiving a call from my friend Lana. "Hey," I said into the phone. You caught me just as I'm taking a few minutes break. What's up?" "Hurry up and be done with work," Lana cried, sounding irritated. "I'm so bored." "One more hour," I said, glancing at the clock. 10 p.m. I was startled by it. It felt like I had just looked at the clock. Half an hour had gone by since the man had come in. "Lana, you should walk over and pick me up," I said in a low voice. "There's a weirdo here and he's giving me the creeps." "Are you alone again?" Lana asked, sounding concerned. "Yeah," I mumbled into the phone. "I tried to talk to my boss about it again, but he never does anything. Anyway, I'll see you in a bit." I hung up the phone just as the fryer timer beeped. The wings were done. I threw my phone in my bag and walked around the corner to the main part of the kitchen. I sauced the wings and cut the pizza, carrying the order to the front while looking forward to seeing the man leave. I looked around and felt my knees grow weak again. The front was empty. The stool the man had been sitting on was jutted out. The menu he was reading was on the ground. This completely freaked me out. I hadn't heard the doorbell, so he couldn't have left. My eyes drifted over to the bathroom door. The handle button was horizontal, meaning it was locked from the inside. This made me feel a little better. He was just in the bathroom. There's nothing wrong with that. I stood at the till, aimlessly looking through stuff as I waited for him to come out so I could give him his order. I looked down at the bottom of the screen at the time. 10:15, 10:21, 10:34. He had been in there a good half hour before I mustered the courage to knock on the door. "Everything all right in there?" I called out. At once I could hear shuffling, as if I had startled him. I backed up, preparing for him to come out. The shuffling then stopped, but he still didn't open the door. I walked closer again, raising my fist to bang on the door again, when I heard a click. The door had unlocked. 10:40 p.m. I was at a loss for what to do. I had grown very paranoid, and I now knew something was wrong, but at the same time I couldn't just stand there and wait for something to happen. It was 20 minutes to close, and I still had a few things to do. I braced myself for the door to open and deal with it when I heard him whispering, "One more hour. 1 more hour. Lana." I jumped back like I had been burnt. He was recycling my words again from earlier when I was on the phone, but I was in the back of the kitchen behind the wall. There's no way he could have heard me unless he crept back there and listened in. I backed away from the door and grabbed my phone, dialing my boss's number. My hands shook as I struggled to press the buttons. Bright lights suddenly distracted me, and I looked up to see a car pulling into the lot. I thanked my lucky stars as two people got out and walked towards the restaurant holding hands. However, seconds before they could open the door, the bathroom door creaked open. My heart pounded as I looked over, not sure what I should prepare myself to see. The man looked the same as before, except covered in sweat, and he was panting like a dog. His hair was sticking up everywhere, and he was pulling on it. Beep, beep. The couple walked in, looking curiously at the giant menu a few feet over my head. As I turned to look at them, the man suddenly leapt forward, making me scream and jump back. But he didn't touch me. He grabbed his order sitting on the counter and then bolted out. And I mean bolted. He ran like someone was trying to kill him across the highway and into the neighbourhood beyond. The relief I felt when he was finally gone was explainable. I was nearly laughing when I took the customer's order, so dizzy I could hardly keep it together. I rang in what they wanted and raced back to prepare my last order of the night, 10:52 p.m. With the customers in the front, I felt comfortable enough to look out the windows and make sure the man had not returned. It was dark, but I could see enough, and after a good few minutes of checking things out, I decided it was safe to say he was gone for good. I was also starting to wonder where Lana was, and hoped she hadn't run into the creep. 10:57 p.m. I brought out the customer's order and they thanked me, leaving no tip, but I wasn't expecting one after they saw me scream as the man grabbed his order. As soon as they drove away, I turned off the open sign and raced back to grab my things. I put my jacket on and went to the back area to turn off the computer system, realising I forgot to check the bathroom to make sure the man hadn't done anything weird in there. I dismissed the thought. I wasn't going to spend any more time in here than absolutely necessary. I've had enough for today. The computer made a few beeping sounds as the entire system shut down, and the light above me went out like it's supposed to. The only thing on now was the security camera, and I glanced up at it, hoping to see Lana walking over. Something bothered me about what I saw. The front was empty and dark, but I could still see the shapes and shadows of things. There was no one inside but me. I used the master switchboard next to the computer to turn the front light on, and nearly had a heart attack. The man was standing outside the door, not moving, and staring in through the glass. It's hard for me to remember everything that happened next. All I can recall is running into the walk-in cooler and locking myself in as I called the police from my cell phone. I remembered crying as I tried to recall to them what exactly had happened. They drove me home and promised to keep a lookout for him, but that didn't make me feel much better. I felt like they didn't entirely believe me, but I was sort of expecting that. I went to work early the next morning, still terribly paranoid, even though it was the middle of the day with lots of people around. I was going to tell my boss I couldn't work nights anymore, starting now. There was no way I'd put myself through that again. I opened the door, and my co-worker gave me a grim look, looking not at all pleased as he motioned for me to look over at the bathroom door. It was covered in caution tape with a giant sign that read, "Out of order." I asked everyone I worked with what happened in there, but no one gave me a straight answer. I'll never know how to fully explain what happened last night. I feel somewhat safe knowing I won't have to work alone ever again, but one thing has been bothering me since it happened. Lana walked here to pick me up, and that man was outside. I've been calling her all day. Each time it goes to voicemail. Update. Hi everyone, I've been reading all your comments and have been answering them the best I can. Now I'm going to give answers to the two main questions, what happened in the bathroom and what happened to Lana. I was hoping to get a concrete answer about what was found in the bathroom before I update, but it's growing apparent that it may be a while before somebody tells me exactly what was discovered, if they can even tell me at all. I got most of the information out of my boss, who talked to me for a long time today about the events of the other night. He ended up looking over the security footage from when the man was in the restaurant and went over with me what he saw. He told me he watched the man sneak into the back when I was on the phone, getting very close to me. He said if I had done so much as turned around, I would have seen him. I was told there had been paper towels stuffed into the toilet, the entire roll by the sound of it. The cardboard cylinder was found stepped on the floor. I didn't see anything too strange about this and asked why everyone was being so quiet about it. I was told afterwards that there had been blood covering the paper towels. There was a smeared bloody handprint on the toilet seat. I don't know what to make of this. I don't understand where the blood came from. There's another factor that's being left out of everyone's explanations, and I'm hoping once this settles down, people will give me the last piece of the story. I have a feeling that they aren't telling me for my own good. Blood and wet towels everywhere is disturbing enough. Lana has finally made contact with me. Not the kind of contact I was hoping for, but at least it's something for now. I got a text from her a little over half an hour ago. It read, "Sorry I missed your call." I don't like that text. It doesn't sound like her. Lana is the type of girl to use exclamation points in every message, and always uses proper grammar and capitalization. That aside, I just think it's weird. It's a weird thing to say. I called her tons of times, not just one call. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I'm getting so paranoid I can't help it. I'm walking to her house after this post. I really hope it's just paranoia making me so worried.